Big news. I like this. I'm going to play this one right off the bat for you. It's American Airlines, and for the first time in 4 years, they're doing some brand advertising. Now, this may have something to do with the care package that they're hoping for. I did buy some, full disclosure, did buy some United Air stock because I fly United and I'm one of those platinum business card people. So I support United, employee owned. But anyway, I want to show you this because it's kind of inspirational.
It's easy to be an airline when there are blue skies ahead. But in our 94 years, we've weathered many hard times, coming out the other side, always better, always stronger. And as we move forward, one thing stays on our minds. Why do we fly? We fly because people need to get home, and life-saving equipment needs to get to the lives that need saving. We fly because you're doing your part to keep the world moving, and we want to do our part too. And we keep flying for one reason. You. You are why we fly.
I once sat on an airline. I once sat on an American airline. I once sat on an American Airlines. Oh, stop! I once sat on an American Airlines flight with a stewardess from American Airlines, and the whole flight she told she told me why she hated American Airlines. Oh yeah, wonderful. Looks like they've got extra airlines. Oh, here, let's go back over here. Looks like they got a lot of airplanes sitting around. That you know, there was this rumor going around at 9/11 when all the flights were grounded that there wasn't enough room to put all the airplanes on the ground. There had to be a certain number flying, but you can see they're pretty good at putting them somewhere, right? There's a lot of room at an airport. You can stack planes up if you don't want to taxi through there. So there they are, right there. Okay, so let's get back to the serious stuff. Not really serious. There was a kind of a rumor that Apple was moving production to Brazil out of China, and that Apple was one of the last bastions of places that thought China was okay, and now we've got all this pushback on China. So, um, it's hard to say. It's hard to say what we got about China, but the truth is that Apple had produced phones in Brazil, and that this is the SE, which is the El Cheapo. I don't know what that is in Portuguese, but it's the less expensive iPhone, and most of the reason that they produce them there is that Brazil has a pretty high tariff on stuff, and so they produce them there to get around the tariff. So it's not a major move out of China, but it is a minor one. Google is extending Google Meet. Now, I'd never heard of Google Meet, so I looked it up, and it said you don't have authorization to use it. But Google Meet is connected to G Suite. Now, one of the reasons I brought this up was because when people ask me to do a Zoom meeting, one way to get out of it is to just say, I don't use Zoom because it's routed through China, which is only partly true. And I went and looked up the Zoom complaints about privacy. One of the biggest ones was that your boss can see what else you've got running while there's a Zoom meeting, which I thought was a great idea as a boss. Of course, you know, I'm one of my main guys to watch, and one of my main violators in video chats of what I'm doing. Video chats are harder to duck out of than phone meetings where you can go get coffee and, go to the restroom and no one notices. They just think you're politely listening. I shouldn't tell all my secrets. You're better off with a Zoom meeting with me. Anyways, Google Meet. I use Google Hangouts quite a bit. Some for business, and it seems to work well. But one of the problems Zoom is having is because it's so overloaded with funerals and baby visits and such. I just heard that my mother-in-law's nursing home will schedule a Zoom meeting with your grandma for 20 minutes, So you can see her and see that she's still alive. So it's getting overloaded. Zoom is a little bit overloaded, but some of my clients are using Microsoft Meeting because it's less overloaded, because it's part of it's mostly business use. And I would guess Google Meet is actually rolling out late in October or late in April. So you may not have access to it even if you are paying for Google Suite, which we did look into, but it didn't seem to give us that many advantages. As I mentioned the other day, Walmart announced they're going to hire 50,000 more workers to meet demand. My concern mainly is that we're putting little businesses out of business, but leaving big businesses as essential, like Walmart. So if you got fired from your boutique job, you can go work at Walmart, even if that isn't alluring to you. I'm just going to go look at the Periscope. Yeah, it's still going. Okay, seems to be working okay. Oh, I know, I forgot to hit the little X. Okay, but I've heard that I heard from a small town in Wyoming friend, and they told me that the small businesses are, opening on a limited basis. They're shipping stuff. They'll bring it over to your door. Kind of like the old days. I was thinking about the milkman who used to come, Mr. Santo, and they're working out ways to get some sales and get stuff out to you. So if you have a favorite business, my favorite Chinese restaurant opened yesterday or Sunday. So we're going over there for some beef and broccoli shortly, mostly to help out. But it wouldn't surprise me if they're overwhelmed, because they're the best Chinese around and nice people. And so we're going to support them. I thought this was an interesting article. A CBD brand, Ned, focuses on shopper lifetime value. Now, part of the reason that I bring this up is that I did my homage to John Worth and the bathtub model, which is an alternative to customer lifetime value. But this wasn't so much a strict lifetime value. They took into account acquisition cost and then downstream revenue. Not sure even on profit. It was a very, very simple system from a company named Yagara, which I haven't heard of. But it's only $1,000 a month. So if you have nothing, if you don't have a customer database, this might be a solution for you. And also, when you're only in business a year and your main concern is acquisition, then this is a really good idea, is to do something simple to at least get a feel for the quality, both in the cost of acquisition. See, if you just look at cost of acquisition, you get El Cheapo leads that may not be worth very much. And one of my clients used a Groupon thing, and they got thousands of responses of people who didn't show up. And they also used some affinity marketing and sold lots of very inexpensive product samples, sort of sample kits. But the customers just basically never came back. Now, if you get enough of those, like, for example, with Windham Hill Records, we kind of turned them around. They had a little catalog, but they were renting lists for acquisition. And I said, why don't you put a little card in your CD boxes? Because they got rid of about 4 million boxes a year. And so we put one in there, and they got, I think, 15% response, which ended up being 600,000 leads they generated of people interested in getting a catalog. Why rent lists, right? And those pulled 90,000 orders, new customers. So, sometimes it's better to get a big number of really cheap leads versus. I did a study long ago for business to business, and we looked at the cost per lead. And they were using the Wall Street Journal, and they were they had these postcard decks, which were little saran wrapped card decks of cards that you could sort through fast and decide which ones you wanted. And then there was a bingo card at the end where you could fill in the numbers of the cards and just send one reply and you'd get followed up. And those were about $2 a lead, and they also used the Wall Street Journal, I think, which was about $200 a lead. And what we found was that there was no real difference in the conversion rates of the really cheap leads versus the expensive leads. And one thing, when we took the cost of the follow-up into account, which you also should do on this kind of thing, we found that the cheap leads were a much better deal. So, figure that stuff out. They said a downside was to get these lifetime numbers, it takes a few months for the platform to receive and analyze the data. Of course it will. And if you've only been in business a year, you may want to find a platform that you can load all your data for right away, but there may not be such a thing. That's what we do. We take 10 years of data. We specialize in figuring out which of the dead customers aren't really dead. And that is worth a fortune, because most companies that have been in business 5 or 6 or 10 years have a lot of people that only bought once. 60% plus of their file only bought once. Didn't spend much, haven't bought lately. And they're continuing to go out and find new customers that only buy once, don't spend a lot, and won't buy, and then we'll age. So if you can figure out how to mine those old customers, there's a huge number of them that already expressed interest. So in some sense, they're better than a cold lead or a cold new customer that just bought a sample kit. But it's not easy to tell because you don't have much data. So we expand on that. So one of the things they found, which I thought was really good, was 35% of its monthly revenue came from subscribers, which you think they would know, but it's in the fog of war. It's hard to know what's really bringing the victory. And as a result, they redesigned its e-commerce site to highlight the value of subscribing to its products, which I'm guessing is some kind of marijuana or some kind of CBD is just the painkiller thing. Okay, and they get free 15% off and free shipping. Sounds good. The other reason I like this article was that they said we had the strongest month ever in March by miles. Okay, so the COVID-19 impact brought them customers, and we're seeing that across the board in e-commerce companies. Because we didn't shut down at all. No sense in it, right? So April, thank you for your excellent article in Digital Commerce 360, and I will be reaching out to you later. Stay safe. Have a great day. I'm John Miglash. Like and share. Your friends will think you're smart. Bye-bye.